And let's see how we did last week. Pete Prisco, 4 games above 500 for the season, 4 games ahead of Brady Quinn with a 10-7 week last week. And look at Pete's best bets, 2-0. And the great pick last week, just riding the trend of the Jags taking down the Colts.
Well, he's the mayor of Jacksonville.
Yeah, but that was an easy pick.
Was it?
Really easy.
Okay.
Really easy. Who'd you
so
have?
you thought they'd be leading the top of the AFC
Who'd
South?
you have? Was that one of your 10
my
losses?
best bet was over after Thursday night.
Was Indianapolis one of your 10 losses?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just got checked.
He's been hot. I mean, bottom line is he's got a winning record now. He's done well. But you don't win after 2 weeks in the NFL.
True.
I'm not sure if Pete
I'm due for a bad week.
That's Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. I'm Chris Hassel. Let's get to it, starting with the Thursday nighter. The Browns, 4.5-point favorites at home against the Steelers. One of those really low totals of 38.5. Not going to see many points.
No, you're not. It's almost like the books are begging you to take the over on some of these because we've hit so many unders, as you just talked about a minute ago. Pete, this is the tough thing for me. I'm trying to figure out what the identity of these teams are at this point. You go back and you look at Cleveland's loss. There was 2,229 games where teams have led by 13 points or more under 2 minutes, and they've won. Cleveland's the first team to do it since the Cleveland Browns back in Week 9 of 2000, okay? I don't know whether to look at that and say that's the Cleveland Browns are a team that should be 2-0 right now. They should have won. They're going in with home field advantage on a short week, and they should be able to cover the spread. Or if I should be looking at a Pittsburgh Steelers team that's having a hard time throwing the football and creating much offense of their own. I think these two teams aren't that far apart. I'm going to take the 4.5 points here in the Steelers. I hate to admit that. I do think the Browns win this game, but I think it's a 3-point game. I think it's a low-scoring 3-point game. But when I say low-scoring, enough to hit over 38.5 points. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous.
That's low in the NFL.
That's ridiculous.
If Nick Chubb had gone down, they win the game. It's really simple. It's a simple thing.
Come on.
It's a simple
if
thing.
The defense gets a stop.
Brady, the
You're
only
going to blow coverages, let them off the hook?
The only chance.
Or if you recover an
the
onside.
Jets had.
Or recover an onside.
The only chance
Cade York
the
makes a
Jets had.
PAT.
It doesn't. That's
Some guy
all.
doesn't hit Jimmy Haslam with a bottle, that's banned now.
Here you go. If he goes down, the game's over.
I don't disagree with that.
So then what are you trying to say?
I'm saying you can't let the defense off the hook either.
I'm not letting anybody off the hook.
You're letting them off the hook.
The strategy's to
Sure.
blame. Go down.
You know what the problem
win.
is? No one told Nick Chubb in the huddle, did they?
No.
It was reported and talked about this past week. So that's on Kevin Stefanski.
Correct.
It's on his staff. That's on Jacoby
Correct.
Brissett. He's playing
Correct.
football.
Go down.
Everyone's to blame, though.
I agree.
Nick Chubb
But
can
there were
take the
people
blame,
that
but
say,
it's also
they had you take a 14-point lead or whatever. You don't. You go down.
2,229 times.
I don't care. You go down, and the number would still be getting higher. That was a bad decision. I'm going to take Pittsburgh as well. I think the number's bloated. I think Cleveland will win the game, but I think this number's way too high. How much longer does Mitch Trubisky have? That's the question in Pittsburgh.
Can I say this in defense of Mitch Trubisky?
Of course, you're going to defend a quarterback.
No, because this is a Matt Canada problem.
I agree.
Before Mitch Trubisky got there, everyone wants to talk about their yards per attempt or net yards per attempt, right? All those metrics to look at a short passing game. Go look at last year when Mitch Trubisky was riding the bench in Buffalo. Right. It was the same thing with Ben Roethlisberger, and it wasn't his age. Go back and look through the previous. It's been 5 years.
I agree.
Since the Pittsburgh Steelers have had a net yards per attempt in the top 10. 5 years. Randy Fittner was the play caller. This is a Matt Canada problem.
I agree.
He's got to do a better job of pushing the ball down the field.
But how much longer does Mitch Trubisky have?
I don't know. I mean, Kenny Pickett's a hometown favorite, a first-round pick, maybe a game or two.
If
they lose this bad?
If they lose this one bad, which they're not going to do because Cleveland's not that good, particularly on defense they're not that good, which is a surprise. If they lose this game or lose this game badly, then I think, one more game and then you're out.
You guys both on the Steelers here, but think the Browns are going to win outright. Kevin Stefanski, by the way, 1-11 against the spread against divisional opponents in his career as the Browns head coach. All right, it's the favorite time of the week, favorite part of the show. Pete Prisco's spinning top of the week.
And this is something we talked about last week. I said the Indianapolis Colts have a problem outside with the injuries, but that's not the major problem. The major problem is the offensive line. That has been a strong suit of this team for a long time. It's been its calling card. You can pound people, you can run the ball, you can protect. They did none of that last week. And here we go. We'll just start it off right from the bat. We'll take a look at Matt Pryor, the left tackle. Ooh, was he bad last week. Here you go. Josh Allen moved right around him, ball out.
Well, Pete, you talked about too, though. give the props for Jacksonville. It's an improved group up front. We talked about it before the season. You knew this front would be better than what it was in years past.
Okay, this is a terrible handling of his. The right guard, Danny Pinter, is a problem as well. And Braden Smith's, the right tackle, has been terrible. Here we go. We're going to have problems with guys who are on the move. There we go.
Let me tell you something, too. See the stunt they're running?
Yeah.
That is what you're going to see on every defense in the NFL right now. You're seeing 3 to a side, and they loop the outside guy right back in. They can never pass off the other 2 defensive lines.
Here's Pryor again. Up and under pressure. Step up. You got Braden Smith not holding his guy, which isn't a great player. Back up. And he gets
But that's not on the right guard there. Look, once you slide, once you make that decision, you got to go back, look for help. And by the way, that stunt got them earlier. It didn't there.
And here we go again. This is he's what is he doing with his back to him? And then here we got this guy's holding, that guy's holding. By the way, they made a mistake. They put the rookie in. They made a change. They put the rookie in at left tackle.
We have a butt block now, and now we have a butt fumble.
And here, this is the amazing one. Okay, Quentin Nelson. Boop, 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 boop.
His legs.
Turtle! He's a turtle! He got turtled. Roy Robertson Harris got into him the entire game.
He's a good player.
He's a good player. He didn't have a great game. Roy Robertson Harris got into him the entire game. Physically, they mauled them up front. And if the Colts are going to turn their season around, those 5 guys, or 6, if you talk about the rookie going into left tackle, Bernard Rainman, they have to be better up front.
I don't disagree with that. So does Matt Ryan with his level of play, too.
By the way, you were defending the left guard. Where'd he go to school?
He went to school at Notre Dame. Hey, look, all pros are allowed to have a bad game here and there, right?
Yeah.
I think they're allowed to.
Yeah, but
all pros, you're talking about like Quentin Nelson.
He's a great player, but he was not good this week. And it was amazing how physical Jacksonville was with them. They were just beat them up front. Really beat them up. That surprised me.
So the whole offensive line is your spinning top.
That's the spinning top. We get into because it's hard when you get those stunts. Who you blame?
Where were the Bengals at on that list?
Bengals were bad too.
I mean, were they close?
It wasn't all the Bengals. It was the tackles for the Bengals. Right. Yeah, the tackles for the Bengals. This was an entire group.
Okay. Both teams have problems. Bengals 0-2. At least the Colts have a tie.
When I see Quentin Nelson on his back, I mean, come on.
He got tripped up when he got turned. Go back and watch.
Did he get abused on that play?
He did abused. He got tripped up. He got
quarterback defender, Notre Dame defender.
I'm just saying. Go back and watch it. His feet get tripped up as they turn. Of all the things.
Win one for the Gipper.
Go find a new head coach.
Win one. We need one. Urban Meyer, come on home.
Well, we'll pick that Colts matchup this week against Kansas City in just a little bit. Let's move on here as we pick every game against the spread on CBS Sports HQ with Pete and Brady. Up next, is this the new Brady versus Peyton Manning? Tua Tagovailoa against Josh Allen. First of 2 times this season. All right, here are the games on CBS in the early window. Texans at Bears. Jeremy St. Louis called that a good matchup earlier today on HQ. I would not go that far. Only a total of 40.5 there. The other ones, a couple of them 50 and above. Chiefs, Colts, Bills, Dolphins. What are you smiling at?
What are you throwing Jeremy under the bus?
No. Sure did.
It should be a competitive game. It's a 2.5-point spread.
That was under a truck.
Competitive is one thing. Good, I don't know if I'd say that.
Under a diesel truck.
And Bengals and Jets as well. Let's start with Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco on the game featuring a couple of 2-0 teams in the AFC East. It's Dan Fouts and the Miami Dolphins going up against Josh.
Flashes of him
How
last
about
week.
that? Last week, Brady.
Flashes of him last week. You asked if he was a Hall of Famer. I don't know. He looked like one last week.
And he threw for more yards in that game than Dan Fouts ever threw for in a game.
And as I told you, Dan Fouts threw for about over 430 yards 8 times back in the day.
He never threw for as many as 2.
And by the way, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, he might this season.
Nobody on Dan Fouts' team, and he had great receivers, was ever as wide open as those 2 were last week. I mean, my God, the Ravens were terrible.
I can't wait for this game.
Me too.
Because I'm curious to see how Sean McDermott and that defense matches up with the speed of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, especially in South Florida where it's still hot. They're going to have to battle some of that too. If we're being real, though, I mean, the Baltimore let the Dolphins back into that game. They had no business losing that game. And so even though you want to give the Dolphins credit for the win, they're taking on a team, the Buffalo Bills, that's better than anyone else in the NFL right now. I mean, they are a juggernaut the way they're playing with Josh Allen. I'm laying the 5.5 points, divisional game on the road, don't care about it. I need someone to beat the Bills and actually be competitive with the Bills for me to think otherwise. I mean, this guy right here has been phenomenal. My only concern, Pete, is some of those runs, when you see what happened to Trey Lance, you go, man, that could easily happen to Josh Allen too. One of those freak accidents, as much as he runs and as physical as he runs.
Well, they did cut down on the design runs. I mean,
yeah, but he's still going to scramble.
I know, but he did cut down on the design runs last week, which I like. I'm with you. I don't think he needs to run that much. I'm on the Bills too. Until you prove you could stop that team, I'm not going to believe that you can. And by the way, Miami couldn't stop Lamar Jackson and the Ravens last week. Miami's defense was bad, and Tua kind of bailed them out. Actually, the Ravens bailed them out. Couldn't rush the passer, had all kinds of young kids playing in the secondary, and they busted many a coverage back there. Kyle Hamilton, I don't know what he was doing when Hill went right. Where did he go to school?
I went to Notre Dame.
Okay. But he was standing in cement on that one play, and it just was not a good look for the Ravens. Give Tua credit. And I said this week. I unlike you, and I actually referenced you in my thing, I can admit when I'm wrong. So if he proves to me that he can continue to do stuff like this, and he's not going to throw for 466, give me 330 and 3 this week against Buffalo.
Yeah, maybe not against Buffalo.
And unlike you, I will say I'm wrong.
Okay.
So you can't even say it.
I was wrong more often than you this past week.
Okay.
I was 7-10.
I'm talking about players.
Terrible week.
In terms of evaluating players, you can never say you're wrong. Wrong.
I'm sorry, you say something there? Say something there,
Wrong.
Sparky?
Wrong.
Both on the Bills for that game. Can't wait
The
for
only
that one.
difference is this number is begging you, because of what we saw last week, to take the over.
I'm
I
going
think it's
over.
lower
I'm going over.
I think it's under.
I don't see anything that's going to keep it under.
I know, but that's the funny thing is they're begging you to take.
You're going contrarian.
I am.
like it.
On this one.
Also at 1 on CBS, the Chiefs 6.5-point favorites in Indy against the winless Colts.
I have no reason for picking the Colts, but at some point, this team's going to turn it around. They can't look as bad as they have.
Pete just lit a fire under their ass with the.
And by the way, I think
If they play well on the
top.
offensive line, they owe me.
Do you remember when we tracked this, by the way, last year? I feel like when we tracked the spinning top, usually the week after,
Oh, yeah.
they stepped it up and they won. Our producer, Jack, can maybe get that research for us, but I'm pretty sure maybe you did light
Next
a fire.
gen
Maybe
stats.
you see the
I'm good at that.
That's next gen.
They should pay me every team should pay me a little piece of their salary, the coaches. Then.
Well, look, this is going to be one, if I lose this week, I'm going to come back and point to, because there's no reason I should be picking anyone but the Chiefs in this spot. At some point, though, by the way, home dogs have been really good. They were 4-1-1 last week. Over the entire season thus far, home dogs are, home teams are 8-7-1. You've got that. But home dogs are 9-5-1 over the season against the spread. So I do have that work in my favor. Maybe this game's a little closer than we think, but kind of a hope and a prayer and more of a hunch of how this game's going to go.
So you took?
Kansas City still wins. I got the Colts and the points.
Yeah, I'm not taking the Colts until they prove to me that they can do anything. And by that I mean offensively, they were awful last week. The line, that's one thing, but nobody scares down the field. Now the injuries impacted what they did, but they didn't run the ball very well. Jonathan Taylor got bottled up. I think the Chiefs aren't great good as like the Jaguars up front, but they're pretty good with Chris Jones in the middle of that line. And then I think when you look at their defense, no Leonard in the middle, that changes the whole dynamic of that defense. Guys didn't play. Yannick Ngakoue, Kwity Paye, where the heck were you last week? Buckner's playing high for the last couple of years. He's not the same player. I just don't think they're that good. I'm taking the Chiefs.
You mean leverage-wise is high, not like he's
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
high out there.
Leverage-wise.
Are you sure about that?
Positive.
All right, just want to give you another chance to say
Leverage.
that. Okay, leverage.
Yeah.
It's about high leverage.
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm glad you
like
cleared that
low man wins.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so high man doesn't win.
Playing
Okay,
high,
just making
playing
sure.
too high.
All right, another 1 o'clock game on CBS. The 0-2 Bengals, just the third Super Bowl team since Y2K to start 0-2, and they're given 5 against the Jets, who just won with Joe Flacco.
They did, and what a job Joe Flacco did helping to bring them back. But as Pete pointed out, it was kind of on the Browns. There's a number of opportunities they had to win that game. They didn't. I'm probably going to fade the Jets the entire season because I think more often than not, you're going to be right. Look, Joe Flacco's had a great record versus most opponents, just not the Bengals, as far as going back to his divisional days with the Baltimore Ravens. I think this is a game, too, where I don't know that anyone in the Jets front scares that offensive line that struggled for the Bengals. And I do think Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, they're going to get together and they're going to say, look, at some point we get the ball out quick. We have to do something to circumvent some of our issues up front. So I'm laying the 5 points here, and I think the Bengals are going to get this thing going in the right direction.
Back-to-back road games for the Bengals, but I'm going against it this week. I'm with you. They've had slow starts 2 straight weeks and then kind of got it going in the second half. I think this week they're going to start fast and play faster and play better. And you're right, the protection has been bad. The tackles have been terrible. Jonah Williams has been bad. Lyle Collins has been worse. So it's been a problem for them. I think they'll be able to hold up in this game, and Joe Burrow will make some plays. There were plays down the field for him to make if they had protected, and he held the ball last week a little too long.
Well, he's got rid of social media, so
So he's got that going for him.
He's got that going for him too.
Okay.
If they don't win this game, are we already jumping to 2-6? Because we're at 2-7 right now. You're guaranteed that Burrow would win 2 titles in 10 years.
Well, look, here's how the math adds up.
Years.
Here's how the math adds up. Over the period of time where we've gone to 17 games and 7 teams in each side of the playoffs, we've never seen an 0-2 team make the playoffs so far. Short sample size. But if you go back to 0-3, even in a 16-game season,
no, they're done.
It's been low percentage.
But look at the division, though. Everybody stunk last week.
Not quite as bad as the other division in the AFC, that AFC South. The Colts are still somehow the betting favorite in that division. All right, let's move to a team in that division, the Houston Texans, 0-1-1, at the 1-1 Bears. Justin Fields has thrown 28 passes. That's it in 2 games.
That's it. But in this case, they're the favorite, and I'm willing to lay the points here. Something tells me like they're going to have enough of a rushing attack, which I think the Texans struggled a little bit last week stopping the run, to run the football effectively, keep this thing tight, a low-scoring game. I don't know if we have faith in either offense. And Matt Eberflus and that Chicago Bears defense making enough plays to hold down the Texans. I'm laying the points over the Bears. I know there's a lot of questions about Justin Fields. I think that's more of a byproduct of like really what Luke Getsy's looking at trying to do with this offense and not putting Justin Fields in a bad spot. I think you and I would both agree they don't have one of the better offensive lines. It's still a work in progress. Don't put the young man out there in harm's way if they can't protect him. And right now, look, you're 1-1. You're still in the thick of it there in the NFC North. So I think the strategy's worked, and I think it's going to work in this game. They're not just going to cover, they're going to win outright.
Way back in the day, the Chicago Bears had a quarterback named Bobby Douglas who couldn't pass a lick, but he could run the ball. And they've gone back in time because that's what they've become. It's terrible. You can't win games throwing 15 passes. And if you're protecting,
you're not questioning his ability to throw, are you?
If you're protecting the quarterback,
are you questioning his ability to throw?
I'm questioning the decision not to allow him to throw.
I don't know that I think it's a byproduct of their offensive line and probably even who he's throwing to.
Darnell Mooney's a good player. Cole Kmet's supposed to be a good player.
Okay.
So throw the ball. You can't win.
Have you been watching the tape? Have you seen those guys wide open?
You can't win. There were guys wide. There were guys open. Actually,
for the week 1, there were some guys open.
But you can't win consistly in the NFL if you can't throw the ball.
No one's going
to
disagree
open it
with
up.
that.
By the way, on the other side, Davis Mills did not play well last week. I'll be the first one to say it. He did not play well. He had some drops, but they didn't play well at all on offense. I think they're going to go up there and cover this number. It wouldn't shock me to see him win this game. I know they're playing consecutive road games. Again, I'm bucking the trend there. But I just don't think.
It's not even a trend for you.
I don't think the Bears are that good.
You've gone against it so many times the first couple of weeks. It's not even a thing anymore.
I don't think the Bears.
You can't even say back-to-back
bad teams, it's hard to go. I don't care what. And the Bears are bad. That's a bad football team.
So are the Texans, though, right? I mean, are the Bears that much worse than Houston?
Got a tie. Bears got to win.
Right.
In the rain. Asterisk.
Yeah, against Trey Lance. All right, let's recap the CBS 1 o'clock Eastern Time kickoffs for Pete and Brady. They like the Steelers plus 4.5 in Cleveland, Buffalo minus 5.5 down in Miami, and Cincinnati minus the 5 at the Jets. How is Lamar Jackson and that whole Ravens team going to bounce back after the collapse against the Dolphins? The Ravens are giving 3 in New England. We have the picks next. Picking the rest of the early slates, including really a must-win for both the Raiders and the Titans. Both teams 0-2 coming into that one. Winner might stay in the race. Loser 0-3. Yikes. Ravens at the Patriots, a couple of 1-1 teams. Vikings, Lions, also 1-1. Eagles look really good. That number has ballooned up to 6.5 at the Commanders, and the Saints minus 3 at the Panthers. Brady Quinn, Pete Prisco, Chris Hassel. Let's pick it, guys. Raiders, Titans. Sportsline says the Titans have a better chance to make the postseason than the Raiders. I think a lot of that has to do with the schedule and the division.
I'm curious where Pete's going to go with this one. I mean, I looked at it and I thought to myself, okay, the Titans look bad. Their defense clearly is missing Harold Landry. Derrick Henry doesn't have the same effectiveness when you don't have someone else out there at the wide receiver position protecting him. Treylon Burks, I think, will be good. He's not there yet. Maybe there's some issues too with the play calling and Todd Downing. But the Raiders have issues of their own. And the way they gave up at the end of the game, the ability for Kyler Murray to run around and do what he did, to me, it signals this could be a long road in a really, really tough division for the Raiders. That being said, to me, there's just too much talent there. This line's a little bit funky. I think this would be closer to a pick'em with Tennessee playing at home. So I'm gonna lay the 2 points here. I think eventually the Raiders are too talented. I think Josh McDaniels is too good of a coach not to get this thing turned around in the right direction.
And think about if they had held off and won that game last week, how differently you'd be thinking about them. Because, you'd be 1-1, you'd say, okay, here we go. And I think they're the better team. I think when you look at the talent, you mentioned the talent, the Titans lack talent right now. And you talk about the offensive line, they're struggling. Jeffrey Simmons is a beast, but the rest of that defense, Byard's a good player, but the rest of that defense struggled the other night. I think the Raiders are going to be able to throw the football down the field. Not having Harold Landry is big with that team, and I think it shows up. So I'm going to take the Raiders as well, -2.
All right, let's move on to a matchup of 1-1 teams. The Ravens at the Patriots. The Ravens averaging an NFL low 39.5 rushing yards per game this season from their running backs, and that's not something that we've seen the last few years. They've been one of the better rushing teams.
It's absolutely shocking, really, when you look at what they've been since Lamar Jackson's been there and how heavily they've relied on the run game. This is one where I hate betting against Bill Belichick at home, and this is one where I gave out the stat. Home underdogs are 9-5-1 the past couple weeks, 4-1-1 last week. But I'm laying the points with Baltimore. I know they struggle to get a pass rush, and that's some of the concern. And clearly that secondary got beat a number of times, but that's two of the fastest players in the NFL, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle last week. I don't have those same concerns with the Patriots offense. I think they're having a hard time finding their identity. And I think Lamar Jackson, I don't have any concerns about what he's capable of doing. Now, if there's one thing that Bill Belichick hates, it's running quarterbacks. He can't play as much man. He can't do the things he wants to do against them. And you know how much he loves to play man, especially on third down. It limits what they can do defensively. I'm laying the 3 points. I'm going with the Ravens here.
I'm on the other side. And this came down to this for me. The offense for the Patriots has struggled, and that's the worst unit they have. But the defense for the Ravens has been awful, and that's by far the worst unit they have. And so in the end, I'm going to go Belichick at home, be able to exploit what is now a bad defense in Baltimore. And I'm talking about, you talk about the speed, Brady, but they busted all over the place. They don't rush the passer that well. I think the Patriots are going to be able to get the offense. It hasn't been good so far, but I think they'll get it going here in this one. I'm going to take the Patriots. You won't need the points.
You went outright.
Outright.
Wow, money line pick from Pete.
Amazing. All right, let's go. Sorry.
Why? Are you...
I'm fine. I'm fine.
You all right?
I just had a little moment there. Let's move on to the Lions and Vikings. Pete, you can do the honors here for Brady.
What? Kirk Cousins?
No.
Well, what time is this game?
This is
It's not prime.
Brady's not.
Brady's
not picking this game.
Oh wait, you're not picking this game.
No.
This game. Yeah.
Why can't you pick the game?
It's a professionalism.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You can pick the game.
We do this every year.
I know, but we're going to do it again this year. You can pick the game without picking the game.
I'm not picking the game.
You can pick the
We
game.
can analyze the game. I'm not picking the game.
Okay. I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings.
You were right about that glazed look on Cousins' face.
Did I?
Nice.
I mean,
What was that look, by the way?
where am I? What am I doing here? I should be home, sitting at home. Instead, I'm throwing bad passes
He
all
hates
over the
those
place.
Monday night spots.
He hates moments when it goes bad. It goes rotten. It doesn't just go bad. It becomes a rotten, ugly thing to watch. That's what it does. And for whatever reason, it happens. But it's not going to happen in this one. He's going to play well in this game. The Lions can't stop anybody. They have defensive issues as well. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game, but I think the Vikings are going to come out and play well on offense. I know it's a short week. That's tough, but they're going to play well. I'll take the Vikings minus the points.
It is going to be interesting to see which teams you get, right? Talked about the defensive issues for the Lions. They looked great in the first half of last week's game. That wasn't the issue. It was the second half. Letting Washington start to get back into that game. The pass rush is coming along, and you saw that in the first half, not so much in the second half. So I'll be curious to see, how much momentum they can bring or how they can replicate that first half of football and try to put it together for an entire game on the road versus the Vikings here. Offensively, they've been great. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown's been one of the better surprises in the NFL right now. On the flip side, though, you talk about Kirk Cousins, his history of success versus the Lions. It feels different this year. I feel like this is going to be a competitive game. Now, maybe I'm convincing myself of this because I'm calling it, and I watch enough of both sides to kind of feel that way going into it. But it's alarming to see not so much of what the offense looked like, more what the Vikings defense looked like. I mean, there was coverage bust. There was holes in the zone coverage. I know against Jalen Hurts, you have a hard time playing man. And trust me, the Lions know this because week one, we saw that. If it's man coverage, he finds a seam, he's going to take off and run. Different situation here, though. I think it's going to be a competitive game. It's going to be a lot of fun.
No pick calling game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is this a freebie for me then?
No.
So if I hit it, you have nothing. You have no loss.
It won't count against our picks. That's what our producer Jack has told me.
Yeah, we'll get your pick off air, and we're going to count it. How about that?
Okay.
Because you got to make a pick.
Pete, don't ask me for a pick on Eastern Michigan and Buffalo in college football this week because I'm calling.
Oh, Eastern Michigan, lay the points.
Buffalo's
winless.
Eastern Michigan just destroyed Arizona State, who stinks.
There you go. Eagles at Commanders, and believe it or not, it's the first time Carson Wentz is going to face the team that drafted him.
Say what you want about Carson Wentz and where his career's gone after the Eagles. He looked pretty good, especially the second half last week, helping to bring his team back. And obviously, they got some injuries up front that have played a role, but I like their chance of staying competitive in this game. Philly looks good. I don't know that's going to last for this long. Bottom line, though, I'll take the 6.5 points in Washington. I'll say this much. I'm incredibly impressed with Jalen Hurts. I'm just not surprised. The more this kid plays quarterback, the better and better and better he gets. I think what they're doing with the RPO system, some of the quarterback runs, I just said it a moment ago about you can't play man against them. They really take away your ability to play man. At best, you have to play a match zone because once those defenders, they get to pass and they turn their backs, if he has a seam, he's out and he can hurt you with his legs. So then you play zone coverage, and now he's picking you apart with Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins and A.J. Brown, all these talented guys. So it's good. It's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to test that secondary for the Commanders, but I think it's a close divisional game.
I'm with you. Again, another team playing on a short week, divisional game on the road. A lot of points, and the Commanders can score. The Eagles were gashed in the run game against the Lions opening week. I think Washington will try and run the ball a little bit here, take the pressure off of Wentz. But I'm with you. I see you like the over. I would agree with you on that. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I'm going to take the Commanders to cover.
All right, over the 47 points in that one between the Commanders and the Eagles. All right, one last 1 o'clock game that we need to pick. The Saints are 3-point favorites at the Panthers, and the Saints. Boy, Pete, you had them, I think, number 6 in the power rankings going into last week.
What's that now?
Well, I forget, but down a ways. I mean, but think about that. It's 3-0 when that incident, or 3-3 when the melee happens, and they went in the tank after that, and Tampa used it to surge.
I mean, Winston's got the broken bones in his back.
Well, and
he didn't have Kamara.
And he threw like it, by the way. I mean, he
reverted back to his Tampa.
He might have broken bones in his brain the way he picked out teams there, man. It was terrible. He threw to how many times did he throw it to?
Look, here's what I'll say about that. Obviously, he's battling through an injury. That's a tough part of it. I just think you're seeing a bigger sample size of Jameis Winston and how much has he really changed from the quarterback we saw in Tampa that turned it over too much. You see the big plays, the down the field passing. You still see the turnovers. It was an issue coming out of Florida State. It was an issue in Tampa. It's why he's in New Orleans. We're seeing him play more.
That's what the coaches all call it. They tell him all the time, you can't be a hero on every play. Take the check down. And, but the one interception was a deep throw down the middle, which he puts it on the inside. It's probably a completion. He just missed them on the play. I think the Saints will go in there and handle business in this one. Their defense is too good. Carolina has all kinds of problems, and Matt Rule is going to be gone sooner rather than later. Maybe he'll be at Arizona State.
Well, you got a lot of people you're contemplating at your alma mater. I'm a little concerned, obviously, about the Panthers' offense and what they can do against the Saints' defense. You're right. That defense travels, divisional matchup. They'll play them tough. At some point, though, I think you're going to see more out of the offense for Carolina. I keep hammering on the kind of home dogs and the success that they've had. I think this one's going to be razor thin. And so I'll take the 3 points. I think the defense for the Panthers will be able to get a couple turnovers from Jameis Winston, at least the way he's playing right now with the injury and what we saw last week. So I'll take the Panthers and the points here.
I had a tough time with this game.
This is one of the tougher picks of the week.
If the Panthers don't cover, they would tie the longest against the spread losing streak of all time, 10 straight. All right, Pete and Brady giving picks for the rest of the afternoon slate on Fox, agreeing on the Raiders -2. Pete, I wanted you to do your Brady. I'm not picking this game because I'm calling it. Brady, it's an NA.
Hey, wait, what that look like again?
I'm not. The people at Fox will not allow me to call this game. I picked this game. I'm calling it.
Commanders plus the 6.5. All right. Up next, Brady's going to be able to pick every one of them the rest of the way, including this one. Packers at Bucks. Going to learn a lot more, hopefully, about both of these teams. No Mike Evans for Tampa, suspended for a game.
"50 years ago, the Godfather franchise was born. One of its more memorable quotes, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. That applies to the Don of today. You know Tom Brady circled weeks 3 and 4 on his calendar. Rodgers and Mahomes, his closest contemporaries, forming the ultimate quarterback gauntlet. Together, the 3 most decorated QBs in the game today. TB12, the all-time leader in rings, Super Bowl MVPs, wins, touchdown passes, yards, and plenty of other accolades. Aaron Rodgers, the 2nd most MVPs ever, behind only Peyton Manning. And Mahomes, the youngest QB to win Super Bowl MVP. The stakes? Revenge in a rare double dip. It's the 2nd time ever a QB with an MVP and Super Bowl MVP faces QBs with both accolades in consecutive games. The other, when Brady beat both, ending with a 7th ring in 2020. All the bragging rights belong to Brady. 30 QBs have faced both Rodgers and Mahomes. Only one has a winning record against both. Guess who? Brady. He's added a trophy to his case at their expense. 3-0 against them in the playoffs. And each time he won, he went on to raise the Lombardi. And in true Brady fashion, he won each of those games as an underdog. His matchup against Rodgers, one between legends. 7 MVPs combined, tying the most in a QB clash ever. That award, perhaps the one thing Rodgers has on Brady. And he has the last laugh after edging out Brady on last year's ballot. Brady versus Mahomes, a grudge match. Their first meeting since Super Bowl 55, the worst beatdown of Mahomes' career. So this may be the last time the NFL Godfather faces either quarterback. An offer he can't refuse.
I mean, I've never seen Tom Brady compared to a mobster. You could have, I mean, when you think about that, anybody, he's a mobster now? I mean, you're laughing, what's so funny? He's funny how? Ha ha, funny how? I mean, what are we doing here?
I don't know. I'm worried. There's not going to be a horse's head in someone's bed at some point.
You chose.
Never go against the family.
I mean, we can go through a million lines.
Bucks 1.5-point favorites at home against the Packers, and that's where we start with the late slate. Got Pete Prisco, got Brady Quinn. We are picking it. No Mike Evans in this game. Not going to make a difference?
Yeah, of course it's going to make a difference. I mean, bottom line is like
He's sleeping with the fishes.
Yeah, you signed Cole Beasley. Apparently, Tom Brady slid in his DMs to help get him over to Tampa. I mean, they're pulling out all the stops just to find people who are eligible to catch the football. It's a problem. The real problem to me, though, in this matchup is going to be the Packers' rush defense. Because you know exactly what the Bucs are going to do. You don't have your wide receivers full strength. You're going to run the football. It's going to be playoff Lenny. They're just absolutely being a battering ram in there. And they're going to see if they can expose the Packers' rush defense, which hasn't been great. I'm going to go ahead and take the 1.5 here in the Packers. This line was a bit confusing. I thought it'd be closer to a pick 'em, given the suspension to Evans and obviously injury situation of wide receivers for them. But bottom line is, I just think the Packers are in a better spot health-wise and as far as just overall playmakers on the field, even though, again, they've got some young pieces who need to step up.
The sad thing about this is this might be the last regular season game for Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers, and we're talking about the defenses.
Yeah.
It's terrible because we don't know what the Packers can do offensively yet with their young wide receivers, and we know the Bucs have scored 1 offensive touchdown, and their receivers are all banged up. So we're talking about the defense, and the Bucs defense has been really good. The Packers defense was better last week, but I'm going to go with the Packers here because you know why? Aaron Rodgers is the Godfather.
There you go.
So I'm taking Aaron Rodgers to beat Tom Brady's the GOAT, but Aaron Rodgers is the Godfather. And you know what? He has a bunch of good fellas playing around him. So I'm taking the Packers.
Well done. Bravo, Pete.
Drop the mic.
Bravo.
All right, that's at 4:25 Eastern Time, as is a game between the Rams and Cards. And boy, the Rams, Cardinals are going to get the shine with that comeback. The Rams just have not looked good. They almost blew that game last week, almost went to 0-2.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who laid the points with the Rams that weren't too excited about it. You'd be looking at someone right here when it's all said and done. Look, this team, for whatever reason, I don't know if you want to call it a Super Bowl hangover, however you want to categorize it, they just have not been the same team we saw dominating towards the end of last season to help win a Super Bowl. But look, the Cardinals aren't that great either. And I know they typically in these divisional matchups, match up well versus the Rams. But it's the Kyler Murray show, and he's got no help. I mean, the way he was running around, scrambling around, that's just not sustainable, Pete. So I'll go ahead and lay the 3.5 points here with the Rams. I think they're going to get after Kyler Murray. He's not going to be running around like you saw versus the Raiders last week. It's going to be a problem. I think the Rams want to run away with this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And, you heard Cliff Kingsbury say this week, we need him to play more like the whole game like he did at the end of the game. We'll call the plays like that then. Let him play like that. If he's better when he plays like that, so I get it.
How do you call a play? Like you call a play and just have him disregard it?
Open things up a little bit and just play loose, play free, play fast.
Does that when the play isn't there, right? When the play
Yeah,
breaks down.
scrambles around.
And that's what he does. But, let him play faster and up-tempo and go and run and move and run 83 yards to hit a 2-point
Here's
play.
the problem with that is you don't know that you can rely on your defense, right? When you go through
they're bad on defense.
And that's an issue. Like, you want to play complementary football. If you want to play up-tempo, that's fine. You need a defense that can get you the football back. I don't know they have faith their defense can do that right now. Again, the way they won that game was great, but those are the sorts of plays that they're not sustainable throughout the course of a season.
And by the way, the Rams have looked like they have a Super Bowl hangover the first 2 weeks. They just don't look
Stafford
the
with 5 picks already.
same. They don't look the same.
Well, the elbow issue.
The elbow issue. The defense hasn't been as good. It's just not the same.
You know who looks better than the number 32 power-ranked team in the league is the Atlanta Falcons. They started at 32 in Pete's power rankings. 2 feisty showings.
Feisty.
Against pretty
I like
good
the word
teams.
feisty.
It's a good way to describe
But
it.
you haven't moved them up at all.
No.
And now going to
Win
Seattle,
something.
getting 2 points.
Win something. They haven't won.
There's an opportunity here.
You start
against
at the
teams.
bottom and you haven't won. Do you move up because you played close games?
Look, give Arthur Smith a lot of credit, though, because, and this is what I feel like the plan was. It was we're going to go get Deshaun Watson. Now, they would have had to face a suspension regardless, so it really doesn't matter. They would have had to live life with Marcus Mariota as their starter. But the reality is we still are talking the Falcons and Seahawks here, right?
I think, yes.
Just making sure. Arthur Smith has put together a game plan to utilize the talents of Marcus Mariota. There's some zone reads. Some of that stuff is hard to stop, especially when it's so different from what you traditionally see in the NFL. So give them credit. Defensively, they just struggled so much that I think Geno Smith and the Seahawks at home, the Falcons are going to have a hard time matching up with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think they'll be able to run the football a little bit too. I'm laying the 2 points here. This is a small number. I think that home field advantage will play a role here.
And they stayed on the West Coast, so to take away the travel from it. I don't know how that works out, but they stayed in Seattle actually after playing.
You don't have a theory on that? Usually you've got a theory on all that stuff.
No, but
Dude, you adjust to the time zone. The problem is you can't mimic that environment.
Right.
That's a loud.
You're still on the road.
Loud
You're still on the road too. You sleep.
What's louder, Neyland or the 12s in Seattle? How does it compare?
It's pretty tough. Again, it's been so long since I was last in Neyland. I've obviously been in Seattle more recently. It's tough to beat 100 and some thousand people.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that place is constructed, it holds it all in too. So I would say Neyland gives Seattle a run for its money.
Little plug for Tennessee, Florida, CBS, 3:30 Eastern on Saturday. Pete?
And I'm taking Geno Smith as well in this game. I think last week they got caught up in a little bit. It was a division game, but remember they played a long game and tough physical game against Denver, and I think going on the road
Jimmy
was tough.
G, came in there, did his thing,
I'm
the Paisan passion.
You're right. We'll get to him in a bit, but I'm going to take Geno Smith too. If Atlanta doesn't block a punt last week, they lose by 2 touchdowns, and nobody's talking about them being higher than 32 like you are.
Well, I've seen some of that hate mail you've gotten.
Yeah, it's
people
nasty.
are pissed.
They are nasty.
Falcons Mafia is pissed, if that's a thing. That's probably
All
not.
7 of them. No, I'm kidding,
not a
Falcons
thing.
fans. I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
All 7 of them?
like
Jeez.
14.
All right, only one late game on CBS. We don't have the doubleheader, so if you get this game, you don't get the early slate. The Jags at the Chargers. Jags, it's been years since they've won back-to-back games, right? Sportsline giving the Jags the best chance to win the AFC South right now.
And I don't doubt that. Obviously, the way they've played so far, that division's wide open. It's not like anyone really looks great in that division. This is one, though, where I'm a little bit surprised the direction you're going. I think this is a tough matchup for the Jaguars. In part, you got to fly all the way across the country. That's not easy, time zone change and all that stuff. But that offensive line versus this front, I think there could be some issues there. And on top of that, I don't know how favorably that secondary is going to match up with Justin Herbert in this passing attack. So I'm laying the 7 points. It looks like a big number. I know you think Jacksonville's been improved. Look, you've been on them the entire season, and you've been right. You've been right the whole time. This is one, though, where I've got to see it to believe it. I just don't expect Trevor Lawrence to be able to go in there and keep this thing close.
I do a 2-hour radio show on their network, so I'm not going to make a pick on this game. I'm kidding.
You thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah,
it was funny. But here's the thing. I was with you, Brady, on this when I thought about the pass rushers again. The Jacksonville offensive line, the right tackle, Juwan Taylor's been one of the best tackles in the league so far this year. He's in a contract year, wonder why. And they can protect the quarterback. I know that it's Bosa and Mack. I think
we'll see against this group.
We'll
if they get by this group, then I'll give you
But I think this is going to be a problem for the Chargers on the interior of their defensive line. Those guys are going to get pushed in the middle. It's going to be a closer game than you think. I initially thought about, like you did, because the Jaguars have been terrible on the West Coast in their history. Awful. They usually go out on Friday. Doug Peterson's taking them out on Saturday. Business trip. Not going to go out on Friday.
I don't like that. I always like the extra day.
I
think you adjust
think
a
you
little
don't
better.
ever get adjusted.
A lot of camaraderie.
You don't ever get adjusted.
A lot of camaraderie between the guys and the team.
I like
not a
going
big
out
Saturday
I'm
West
a
Coast
Saturday
travel
guy. I think
Remember when we had to go out to the West Coast for the Super Bowl last year, Pete? We never got adjusted.
So what's the point of going on Friday then?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll tell you,
They're with
camaraderie.
me. I'll take
Jacksonville
to hang around.
You're hanging out with the fellows.
You're not concerned about Herbert's rib?
It's a little concerning, but look, I dealt with it myself. You shoot it up. I mean, as long as they don't puncture your lung like they did Tyrod Taylor, which is a current lawsuit, they should be okay. Now, given the fact that it's the same franchise, that's my concern.
Same doctor, I think.
Boy, hope not. A lot of agreement, not on that game, but on the others. Packers plus 1.5 in Tampa. Rams minus 3.5 against the Cards in Arizona, and Seattle at home minus the 2 against the Falcons. All right, to the primetime games next. Sunday and Monday night. Russell Wilson, primetime once again. Paisan passion is back. 49ers facing a familiar foe in Russ. Picking 2 more games here with Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. The Niners minus 1.5 in Denver against the Broncos. Jimmy G now the quarterback. And how about them Giants? Looking to go 3-0 for the first time since 2009. Slight favorites at home against the Cowboys, who, once again, don't have Dak Prescott starting Cooper Rush. All right, let's start with a Sunday nighter. This is interesting. I think going into the season, you would have thought the Broncos would be a home favorite, but, boy, the offense just does not look good at all so far this season.
No red zone touchdowns. They've struggled operationally, I think, just getting plays off. I don't know if it's the personnel grouping. I'm not sure if it's the communication with the offensive line and the huddle. Whatever the case is, they've got issues. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett every single week comes out afterwards and seems like he's apologizing for something or having to address something. That's a problem. And defensively, look, this team has not been as good stopping the run, and they haven't been the defense they were a year ago when Vic Fangio was the head coach. So I'm laying the 1.5 here. Pete, he's back, baby.
The Paisan passion.
The Paisan passion's back. And I'll put it this way. I think I have a more optimistic outlook for the 49ers this season because he's back as their starting quarterback.
And it's a bad thing for the organization because you want Trey Lance to play as much as he can.
But it's just you have a more experienced guy who's been more successful.
Did you see the way the players responded after the game? They rallied around him. That was going to be a problem.
A lot of passion from those players.
That's right. That was going to be a problem.
Passion.
And he's going to play well in this game, and the 49ers are going to play well in this game. And Russell Wilson's not playing well. And I think the 49ers win this game outright and win it by about a touchdown.
Okay. I mean, there's no disagreement there. I do think this one hits the under, though, because, again, I'm a little bit concerned about the Broncos scoring points.
24-13.
I can see something like that.
Doing some quick math in the head to keep it under 45.
Yeah.
All right, Monday night, Cowboys, Giants. No Dak. Giants are 2-0, and their fan base now starting to get a little bit fired up. Dan Reeves, the last coach for the Giants to win his first 3 games. That was 93, just a few years after a Super Bowl title.
Give a lot of credit to Brian Daboll. I mean, the way this team has responded to him, they're 2-0 right now. Defensively, they're better than where they were. Offensively, Daniel Jones is playing some better football. It's really about Saquon. Saquon looks like the Saquon they drafted him to be, and he's in a good spot right now. I'm not sure what to think of the Dallas Cowboys. Last week, again, that's another game you can kind of chalk up and say, do they win that, 10 times if they play those scenarios over again? Probably not. And I'm not necessarily that I don't believe in Cooper Rush, but I just feel like he's more apt to make that back-breaking play when it's all said and done on the road versus this Giants defense. So I'll lay the 2 points. I think it's the Giants. And by the way, 39 points. I'm not sure either of these defenses is that good that you can't put up over that combined score. So I'm going to take the over here.
Dallas defense was really good last week. And
I think the Bengals offensive line made it look good.
Well, the Giants play better on the offensive line, but they're not great on the offensive line either. I think Dallas is going to go in there and win this game, and I think they'll do it the same way they beat the Bengals. They're going to run the ball and play good defense. And Rush will hit a couple shots down the field. I'm taking the Cowboys to win the game and cover the number.
What would happen if Daniel Jones played Kirk Cousins on Monday night. Did you see that stat? Jones 0-8 in primetime games. Cousins with the worst Monday night record.
They tie. Both of them would throw 3 picks and get sacked 5 times, and they tie.
All right, it is time for our performance multiplier. In just a second, after we recap these primetime picks from Brady and Pete, liken San Francisco to not only win but cover the 1.5 against the Broncos in Denver. And a little disagreement there. Pete thinks Dallas is going to go in, and boy, that would make Cooper Rush 3-0 as a starter if they go in and beat the Giants. Performance multiplier, powered by Liquid IV, and it's time for best bets from Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco. Brady, what's your best bet of Week 3 in the NFL?
0-2 so far. It's been a struggle for me with these, at least in the NFL realm. I'm going to go with the Bengals laying the points here versus the Jets. I just think they're going to turn this thing around. Joe Burrow's too good not to. Jamar Chase versus Sauce Gardner should be a great matchup to watch throughout the course of the game. But I just think they're the better team, and they should be able to beat the Jets by a touchdown, even in their house, where I don't think Jets fans, maybe they're excited about their win coming back home, but Joe Flacco hasn't had much success versus the Bengals. I don't think he will in this matchup either.
Since I'm 2-0 on the year with my best bets, I'm going to make it 3-0 by taking the Commanders plus the points. I think this game's going to be tight. Eagles coming off, a Monday night game where they showed out for everybody, so the number is bloated to begin with. I'm going to take the Commanders plus the points for my best bet.
All right, Pete, you got a 4-game lead right now in the standings through 2 weeks.
Should be 5. It should be 5. He got the gift of the Arizona Cardinals picking up a fumble late.
Some people call it a gift, other people call it luck. I'd rather be lucky than good.
It's true.
Thanks for watching Week 3 NFL picks here on CBS Sports HQ. Enjoy the week, everybody.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.